St. Lucia hints at parting ways with the sub-region's aviation regulator. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, May 21st, 2019. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. St. Lucia could ditch the Antigua-based Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, the ECCAA, claiming that the organization is hampering the development of the airline industry in the island. Civil Aviation Minister Gayle told a news conference that a number of airlines seeking to operate in and out of the island are encountering difficulties acquiring the necessary licenses. And he says St. Lucia does not intend to continue to be held hostage. Joseph recalled that some time ago, Castries had indicated it was considering pulling out of the ECCAA and aligning itself with another similar organization because of the inability to get issues decided on. And he says that option has not been taken off the table, even as local authorities work as best as they can to resolve matters. The Civil Aviation Minister says quite a few airline stakeholders who've shown interest in St. Lucia continue to visit his office, highlighting the challenges they face in obtaining a license from the ECCAA. And he says that while that's the case for St. Lucia, other countries aren't encountering the same difficulties, and some have as many as 4 airlines with licenses operating on their turf. The ECCAA serves the 9-member Organization of Eastern Caribbean States as the Aviation Accident and Incident Investigation Authority. The Belize government has moved one step closer to reaching the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, to settle its territorial dispute with Guatemala. On Monday, 12 days after Belizeans voted yes to going that route, Parliament gave the green light to amend the Maritime Areas Act. The amendment repeals the provisions that provided a framework to seek a negotiated definitive agreement with Guatemala and leaves in force the provisions that define the maritime areas of Belize on the basis of international law. And unlike the decision on the referendum, both sides of Parliament voted in favour of the amendments, with the Opposition People's United Party, PUP, noting that the people of Belize had spoken in the referendum and their voices had been heard. In a show of bipartisanship, Opposition leader John Briceño said his side was willing to work with government to bring a final and definitive end to Guatemala's unfounded claim to Belize's territory.
We are satisfied that these amendments are drafted as such that is in line with similar maritime legislation of other countries in our region like Jamaica and St. Lucia. Today we look to a fresh start. The Belizean people expects the PUP to work with the government, and we will do so with the understanding that there will always be full and frank disclosure and transparency throughout the process, and I thank the Prime Minister for his commitment to do so.
Briceño also urged the Dean Barrow-led administration to move with equal haste to deal with the issue of the Guatemalan military preventing Belizeans from using the Sarstoon River.
We must do everything possible to urgently correct this situation. If those measures fail, and they may well do, then we implore the government to appeal to the ICJ for the much-mentioned provisional measures as soon as it is humanly possible. We want back the Sarstoon.
There will be no early elections in Belize. That's the word from Prime Minister Dean Barrow, who says that despite getting the yes vote it wanted in the referendum, his United Democratic Party, UDP, is in no rush to go to the polls. The opposition leader had warned earlier this week that the government should not see its success in the referendum as any indication that it would win snap general elections. And as it turns out, the Prime Minister is thinking along the same lines.
You can't treat this as some vote of confidence in the UDP. This is a standalone thing. This had to do with going to the ICJ, and the majority of people are sensible enough to agree that that's what we needed to do. Undoubtedly, politics being what it is, we have gotten what you call, sir, a referendum bump. But we fool ourselves if we think that that means we could go to the public and say, general elections, let's use that bump to try and propel us into a fourth term. No, sir, it wouldn't happen, and I would not be fool enough to even contemplate such a thing for all the reasons I've said. So, no, man, we proceed in the normal course, and I believe that we're looking at elections as scheduled in November of 2020.
Over in Haiti, magistrates have begun a week-long strike as they demand payment of salary arrears, improved working conditions, and an end to interference in the judiciary by the executive. President of the National Association of Haitian Magistrates, Jean-William Morin, said the action by the magistrates is being supported by the Professional Association of Magistrates and the Association of Judges of Peace. The group says it hopes the industrial action will force the government to meet the demands of its members. The association has criticized the working conditions in which judges operate for years, noting that several negotiations have taken place with the Ministry of Justice and promises made have not been kept. It said at least 18 jurisdictions have been affected by the strike that started on Monday, and the magistrates have said they will review their options on Friday. Meanwhile, the various associations and unions representing clerical workers in the courts have announced plans for a 2-day work stoppage beginning on Thursday. The authorities have not commented on the strike by the magistrates or the impending action by the clerical workers. Criminals in Jamaica are said to be getting more organized, with the security forces reporting that gangs are collaborating with each other to find ways around the law. And Major Garth Anderson, head of the Jamaica Defense Forces Western Troops, says it's time all law enforcement agencies join forces, as criminals are no longer operating as separate factions.
Guess what? The criminals are working together. They are not working separately. We find that we hit one community, and when you do your investigations, no longer are they in as many factions as you thought. They're actually joining forces to work against us. So why should we continue to work separately? Why should we continue to work in silos? We need to come together as one team, and this is a good indication of that.
A representative from the Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, says the institute is to consider a petition calling for all students to resit the 2019 CSEC maths exams. This follows claims of serious breaches of the examination regulations. According to the Jamaica Observer newspaper, the representative said all of the queries regarding the exam were reported to the head of the department, and it's being worked out. The representative went on to say that the queries have not fallen on deaf ears and that everyone will be notified of a decision in due course. It is unclear who launched the petition that has so far garnered over 5,000 signatures, more than 60% of the 7,500 signatures required. The petition comes after CXC issued a statement last week advising that it had launched an investigation into the cheating incident which is alleged to have taken place in Trinidad and Tobago. 3 invigilators have been fired after a video which made the rounds on social media showed students on their phones during the maths exam. The petition says it would be unfair if these students are allowed a free pass and equally unfair if only selected schools or students are allowed to resit a supplementary exam. It added that given the conditions and circumstances, it's only fair and just that all students in the entire region resit a supplementary maths exam, which should be done before the end of the exam period, which is June 6. One of the Dominica Opposition United Workers' Party's candidates in upcoming general elections has died. The cause of Noreen John's death was not given, but media reports said she died in Antigua on her way to London, where she was going to seek medical attention. John had not been present when the UWP launched its candidates on Sunday, and party leader Lennox Linton had told supporters that she was not well and had left Dominica to seek medical attention. In a message posted on Facebook, he described the 66-year-old attorney who'd been nominated to contest the Grand Bay constituency as a proud patriot and a servant of the public good. There's more news after the break.
I came here as an undergraduate, actually, at Georgetown. Originally, well, I was afforded this opportunity because I got a track and field scholarship. And so when I started Georgetown, the idea was to graduate and then go back home. You know, being home with family, as you're saying, patriotism is a huge aspect of Jamaican culture, and that's definitely one thing that I wanted to keep.
That was my goal for this album. I really wanted to showcase my versatility because I do feel like as an artist I have that. And there's not a lot of artists that have that. Like, either you have a sound.
A Jamaican doctor and professor has been recognized by the World Health Organization as a health leader for his substantial contribution to public health in Jamaica, the Caribbean, the Americas, and the world over the past 4 decades. Dr. Peter Figueroa, a professor of public health, epidemiology, and HIV/AIDS at the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies, was honored at the World Health Assembly on Tuesday.
Recognition means a lot to me. It's a true honor. I've been working in public health for 40 years, and I think I'm an example of many other public health workers who put their commitment and life into trying to help others.
Dr. Figueroa has served in various roles over the years, including temporary advisor to the WHO on a range of public health topics, and he's been instrumental in the HIV response in Jamaica, leading the response from its outset in 1986 until 2008 and transforming it into a highly successful multi-sectoral program. Dr. Figueroa spoke about the biggest challenges he has faced in his career in the health field.
Perhaps the biggest challenge is getting people to take responsibility themselves and to get the political directorate to appreciate that health is more than health. It's having a just society. It's having the social conditions in place where persons, especially those who are vulnerable, are not left behind, where young children are vaccinated, educated, and brought up with love and care. So we have to approach health by having a just society that really offers equal opportunities for all, and health will flourish in that kind of situation.
The World Health Assembly comes on the heels of the Commonwealth Ministers' meeting in Geneva on Sunday. Commonwealth Secretary General Baroness Patricia Scotland said member states have developed a universal healthcare financing toolkit, which is expected to benefit the smaller, vulnerable states. Baroness Scotland spoke with CMC News via Skype on Tuesday, where she gave an update on the new initiative.
Last year, the Secretariat came together and we created such a universal healthcare financing toolkit and the database. So that was very warmly welcomed by all our member states, but particularly those of us who are small and vulnerable, because the price of getting the right medication for our citizens is even more difficult when we lack capacity and we don't have always the acuity in terms of the specializations that we need because our populations are relatively small. So this opportunity to share innovation and creativity was very much at the forefront of what we were saying.
Baroness Scotland says the health ministers have also been discussing ways to safeguard the health of its most vulnerable communities.
So we were looking at issues in terms of women, particularly in relation to how we make sure that those who are subjected to domestic and other violence get access to the sort of help and support that they need. And we know, for example, that 2/3 of the victims of domestic violence do not access the necessary help and support through the medical services, particularly those who are pregnant, and we've seen the terrible impact that has. But we were talking also about people with disability. And what about our youth? What about the vulnerabilities? And how do we create youth-sensitive services? And in the Caribbean, a number of our Caribbean health ministers made excellent contributions. So, for example, the health minister from Jamaica told us about what Jamaica was doing in order to include young people in the creation of services and how they have enabled opportunities to be taken of creating centers for young people, which enable them to receive at these youth centers the opportunity to get the sort of advice and support.
Ahead in Newsline Sport, Gayle says he has nothing to prove but wants to end his career on a high in the upcoming World Cup. Stay with us.
Today we are talking about Rick's case. Tell our audience a little bit about who Rick is.
Rick is a very successful businessman. We're here in his penthouse home, as you can see, who was on his way to a bar mitzvah in Boca Raton for his nephew, goes to Sears to not only buy something but to return a couple of items, who gets arrested and charged with a felony.
That's roasted ground jeera, cumin. So this is also one of Mom's special.
The world's debt is 184 trillion US dollars. That's about 86,000 US dollars per person. Join Linda Tessar, the Central Bank of Barbados 2019 Distinguished Visiting Fellow for the 6th edition of the Caribbean Economic Forum, as she helps us understand just how in a world of rising debt, we in the Caribbean can stay afloat. Follow this important live broadcast of the 6th Caribbean Economic Forum on social media and on radio and television in Barbados and across the region. Thursday, May 23rd at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. in Jamaica. Visit www.centralbank.org.bb for more information.
Experienced Jamaican batsman Gayle is hoping to end his career on a high for the West Indies, who are preparing for next month's Cricket World Cup. The Windies are currently in camp in Southampton for the May 31st to July 15th affair. Back in February, Gayle announced that he will retire from one-day internationals. The opener and former Test captain has played 284 ODIs since his debut 20 years ago, amassing 9,727 runs at an average of 37, to be second only to Brian Lara on the West Indies all-time run scorers list. Speaking to Cricket West Indies media during the practice session on Tuesday, Gayle said he has nothing more to prove, but he's looking forward to the Windies lifting the coveted title.
It's the fun, it's the love of the game. But sometimes as a sportsman, they don't know when to walk away, to be honest with you, because sometimes you might feel you're still at your peak, but eventually you still have to leave the game at some point in time. But at the same time, once you enjoy it, it's always important as well. And like I said, I'm enjoying it, having a lot of fun on the field as well. A bunch of great group of guys as well, that's important. So the dressing room is always going to play a key part for me as an individual. And with these guys, spur you on. The fans are always asking you for more sixes and those sort of things as well. So those things kind of give you that extra drive. But it's really actually, it's nothing to go out there and prove. The only thing that would be nice is actually just to win the World Cup, to be honest with you.
The West Indies will take on Australia in their World Cup warm-up on Wednesday, and Gayle explained why the match will be important for the side's preparations.
Well, it's important for guys to get some runs under the belt, try and get some form, leading up to the tournament as well. So, you couldn't ask a better opponent to play against Australia. One of the best bowling attackers in world cricket right now, so you actually can see where you're at as a batter. So, it's good for all of us as a batter to actually go out and, up against them, because we're eventually going to see them in the tournament as well. So, it's a bit of tit for tat for both teams, to be honest with you.
Staying with cricket, another challenge has been mounted against former Cricket West Indies Vice President Emmanuel Nanthan, this time for the presidency of the Windward Islands Cricket Board of Control. The WICBC is expected to hold its annual general meeting this weekend in St. Lucia, and high on the agenda will be the election of a new president and a vice president. Nanthan, who was seeking another bid as Dave Cameron's right-hand man at the helm of West Indies cricket earlier this year, but was ousted by Dr. Kishore Shallow, is now being challenged by the same opponent for the top job. The Dominican national is currently serving alongside Julian Charles of St. Lucia. Charles, a strong supporter of Nanthan, is a former Windward Islands cricketer and has been president of the St. Lucia National Cricket Association since 2009. Meanwhile, Dr. Shallow's vice presidential candidate is Grenada Cricket Board President Dwayne Gayle. To football now, Jamaica's Reggae Girls left their Caribbean country on Monday, pumped for their next assignment in FIFA Women's World Cup. This after they dismissed their warm-up challenger Panama by 3-1 over the weekend. In this report by TVJ's Karen Madden, head coach Hugh Menzies admits that he will have his work cut out for him when he selects the final 11 to face the Brazilians in the first World Cup clash on June 9th.
Reggae Girls star Khadija Bunny Shaw rewarded the yellow-clad supporters latching onto a loose ball to make it 1-0 for Jamaica in minutes 29. There could easily have been more goals had Jamaica capitalized on chances, but it was not until 4 minutes after the halftime break that Shaw would get a second goal from a brilliant cross from Sadi Alamalakan. Jamaica continued to boss the game and the technical staff rang in some changes, but a mix-up in the Jamaican defense gifted the Panamanians a goal in minute 64. But any thoughts of a repeat of the 2-all regulation and extra-time scoreline in the CONCACAF qualifiers last October were diminished when recalled veteran Shakira Duncan scored to make it 3-1. Following the display, head coach Hugh Menzies admitted that the job of selecting the final 23 was made harder.
It's been challenging, but, obviously we have a good picture now. Some players stepped up today to get into that 23. I think we solidify around 19, and but it's a good problem to have.
For Duncan, it was a dream come true.
I'd like to say thanks to everyone for coming out. I think it's the first time I've ever played in Jamaica with the national team, and I should tell you guys, it was an amazing feeling. Sitting on that bench, all I wanted to do was get a piece of the action. I just wanted to go there and do at least one little thing and hear, whoa, and to come on and actually score a goal, it was amazing, trust me.
And Shaw reacted to having a brace on the night and riding tackles in the game.
I'm a team player, so I might score 2 goals, but if my teammate didn't work hard behind me and work enough to give me that ball, I probably wouldn't get those 2 goals. So kudos to them, and in terms of injuries, it comes with fitness. The more fitter you are, the less you'll get injured. And I've been working in the off season trying to make myself as best as I can, and I mean it shows and it's working. So at the end of the day, I just have to continue doing what I'm doing and building.
Still in football, Ghana's Golden Jaguars will have a packed schedule while at camp in the United States ahead of their first ever Gold Cup experience. More in this Newsroom Guyana report.
The camp will begin on June 1 in Bermuda, where they will come up against fellow Gold Cup debutants Bermuda in an international friendly on June 6. The Jaguars then travel to Costa Rica to continue their camp over the period June 9 to 13, and while there, they will play another international friendly, this time against Caribbean powerhouse Haiti on June 11. From Costa Rica, the team traveled to their base in St. Paul's, Minnesota, USA for their opening game of the CONCACAF Gold Cup 2019 on June 18 against defending champions, the USA. Head coach of the Golden Jaguars, Michael Johnson, said, and I quote, "We look forward to working with the squad over the coming days and weeks as we aim to build on the success of our qualification campaign. The selection process was not easy, and I understand there will be disappointment amongst some players. However, I am encouraging players, fans, and the media to get behind the squad as we aim to do the people of Guyana proud. Wherever you are in the world, we, the staff and players, are asking you to get behind the team and enjoy this historical moment. Your country needs you." End quote. Guyana qualified for its maiden Gold Cup after defeating Belize in the final round of the CONCACAF Nations League in March at the National Track and Field Center at Lenora. The Golden Jaguars were drawn in Group D of the 16-team Gold Cup with the USA, Panama, and Trinidad and Tobago. Following the USA match, the Jaguars would then take on Panama on June 22 at the First Energy Stadium and Caribbean Football Union rivals Trinidad and Tobago on June 26 at the Children's Mercy Park in Kansas.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
The world's debt is 184 trillion US dollars. That's about 86,000 US dollars per person. Join Linda Tessar, the Central Bank of Barbados 2019 Distinguished Visiting Fellow for the 6th edition of the Caribbean Economic Forum, as she helps us understand just how in a world of rising debt, we in the Caribbean can stay afloat. Follow this important live broadcast of the 6th Caribbean Economic Forum on social media and on radio and television in Barbados and across the region. Thursday, May 23rd at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. in Jamaica. Visit www.centralbank.org.bb for more information.
Coming up, Central America with a Caribbean twist. Welcome to Belize. It's a tasty tour with some satisfying stops in Barbados. The excitement of Caribbean Week New York with touches of art and music. It's all next, right here on Caribbean Passport on this station.
Again, the major developments of this day. St. Lucia hints at parting ways with the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority. And in sport, Chris Gayle says he has nothing more to prove but wants to end his career on a high in the upcoming World Cup. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CanonNews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.